We worked on composition, or we did combinations of functions. Now we're doing composition. Combinations was literally just doing one and then doing another, combining them together. Composition really means plugging one into another. So for example, if I want to do f of g of x, that's the same as saying I want to say f of g of x, meaning I'm going to do g of x first. So in this case, g of x being x minus 1, and that's what I'm going to plug in for x in f of x. So f of x plus 1 becomes the square root of x minus 1. Essentially, you take this function and plug it in for x in the other function. Now, if I go backwards, g of f, Goff over here, that's just backwards, g of f of x. So that means I'm going to take my f of x, the square root of x, take this whole thing, and plug it in for x over here. So x becomes the square root of x, and then I have minus 1 on the outside. Notice here that these two are not the same function. It's very rare, actually, that both f of g and g of f come out to be the exact same function. And we'll talk later why that is and why that's important. So just to look at a set of examples here, let's see if we can find all these f of g of x. So same thing. Start on the inside, and we're going to plug this guy in for x in the x. So starting with g, so I now want this to be plugged in for x. So that means 4 minus x squared is what gets plugged in, and then plus 2. From there, I'm just simplifying. So I'm going to have negative x squared, and I should have a plus 6 for that. If I do g of f, that means I'm plugging f in to x for g. So I'm going to have 4 minus, instead of x squared, I'm going to have my x plus 2 squared. So this becomes 4 minus the whole thing when I expand it, x squared plus 4x plus 4. So that means I'm going to have negative x squared minus 4x, and then I have a 4 minus 4 will cancel each other out. Now, I can also plug into a function itself. So I can plug in f back into f again. So I'm going to say, let's write f of x again, x plus 2. I want to take this x plus 2 and plug it in for x. So instead of x, I now have x plus 2, and then I have the plus 2 on the end. So that means I have now x plus 4 for that composition. G of g, same thing. I would have to plug in 4 minus, instead of x, I want 4 minus x squared. And yes, this becomes a little cumbersome, but I should have 4 minus, this will become 16 minus 8x squared plus x to the 4th, which means I should end up with, when I do that simplifying, I should have negative x to the 4th. I should end up with a plus 8x squared and then a minus 12 for that composition. And now this last one can actually be a little bit difficult too, because I would have to go find f of x first, plug it into g of x, and then plug that into f of x. Well, if I do plugging f into g, well, I already did that up here. So I can do that part first. I already know now that I want to find f of g of f, and g of f is negative x squared minus 4. So all I'm going to do now is plug that part into x for f of x. So that means I'm going to have, instead of x plus 2, it'll be this, negative x squared minus 4 plus 2. So negative x squared minus 2 as my final answer. And same thing as when we do combinations, it can be a lot easier to just plug in numbers. So just to kind of point this out, let's see, if I want to do f of g of 2, again, that means f of g of 2. What is g of 2? If I plug in 2, I would have 2 cubed, which is 8, plus 4, which is 12. So this becomes 12. That means I want to know now f of 12, meaning I plug 12 into this. And that becomes 4 times 12 is 48, minus 8 gives me 40. Again, I can do the same thing if I do in the same function. So f of 5. If I plug in 5, I get 12. So now I want f of 12 again, which again becomes 40. That just kind of coincidentally happened. Same thing here. Let's do g of f of 2. So let's plug in f of 2 first. If I plug in 2, I should get 8 minus 8, which is 0. So now I want to find g of 0. And that's easy to find, which is just 4. This last one, start inside and work out. It looks ugly, but it's really not too bad. So first, let's find what f of 2 is. I need to first find f of 2. Then what I'm going to do with that is I'll plug that into g. And then I'll plug that answer into f. And then I'll plug that answer into G again. So one step at a time. If I first find what f of 2 is, well, we just found it. F of 2 is 0. So now I want to find G of 0, which again we just found is 4. Now I want to find f of 4. By plugging 4, 16 minus 8 gives me 8. And now I find the last part, G of 8 means plugging in 8 for that. So 8 cubed plus 4 is my answer. And 8 cubed being 512, so your final answer is 516. So again, it makes a lot more sense to plug in numbers first rather than trying to do your actual composition function and then plug in. Plug in early will definitely be the better way to go.